As we spent this last weekend explaining what it was like to have a Massachusetts moderate as governor, I think his support may melt pretty rapidly. I thought it was very telling that after the millions he spent, he only got 25% in Iowa. 3 out of 4 Iowa Republicans said no. So I don't see him as much of a front runner, frankly.
The Stop Romney movement heads to New Hampshire this week, where stopping him seems impossible, but cutting into his huge lead is the best other Republicans can hope for. Today, Newt Gingrich, who had previously promised to stay positive in his advertising, ran this ad in New Hampshire and South Carolina.
Romney's economic plan? Timid. Parts of it virtually identical to Obama's failed policy. Timid won't create jobs, and timid certainly won't defeat Barack Obama. Newt Gingrich's bold leadership balanced the budget, reformed welfare, helped create millions of new jobs. The Gingrich Jobs Plan, a powerful plan for growing our economy and creating jobs. Rebuilding the America we love with bold conservative leadership.
The New Hampshire union leader, which has endorsed Gingrich, is still pushing hard for Gingrich against Romney. Reagan beat Bush, but he might have lost had New Hampshire conservatives not coalesced around him instead of splitting their support among several candidates. This time, they need to get behind former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. Politico reports that the Gingrich campaign may be trying to build an anti-Romney alliance with the co-winner of the Iowa caucuses, Rick Santorum. Two sources confirmed that there have been discussions within Newt Gingrich's camp about forging a non-aggression pact with Rick Santorum at the debates, though it wasn't immediately clear whether one had been reached or that the teams had discussed it. Joining me now from New Hampshire, editorial director for AOL, Huffington Post, and MSNBC political analyst Howard Fineman, former McCain presidential campaign senior advisor and current Romney campaign informal advisor Charlie Black, and MSNBC contributor and soon-to-be host of her own MSNBC weekend program debuting in February, Melissa Harris Perry. Thank you all very much for joining us.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Melissa, first to you in honor of your new status here as the new shining star in the building, hosting a new program. I want to go to this Rasmussen poll. It's a robo poll, so it's not the most reliable form in the world. But Santorum has shot up. He's shot up in this poll from 4% to 21%. This is a national poll, so it's not New Hampshire. It's not what's going to happen next week. And then you see Romney at 29%, within striking distance of Santorum's 21. Gingrich down there at 16, which in this poll is still in the game. Ron Paul hanging in there at 12. Is the Santorum bubble, Melissa, is your sense of it that it is going to have an expiration date like the others, some 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or is this the one that can go? We've all been asking that question for a while, but I ask it every day because every day there's a new sensation about this.
Well, look, and this matters. It in fact matters in primary politics when your bubble, hits. The fact is that even in a presidential election, if you look back over and over again, let's take the McCain-Obama race. Had that race been decided in late September, it's possible that John McCain and Sarah Palin would have beaten Barack Obama. It's only because it's November when that election happened. So timing absolutely matters. And in this case, particularly in primaries, because momentum matters, because it's so quick, these early primaries, the fact is that Santorum is benefiting from his timing. I don't think that poll is telling us people agree with the policies. I think what it tells us is that people are paying attention to a candidate whom they had not been paying attention to previously.
Howard Fineman, what is the feeling in New Hampshire, and is there a sensation of momentum for Santorum? Is there any chinks in the Romney armor?
Well, a couple things. First of all, as to Santorum, I just got off the phone with his national communications guy who told me, who claimed, at any rate, that they'd raised $2 million in the Santorum campaign within the last 2.5 days. That's pretty remarkable. They do have a TV ad on up here in New Hampshire now. I think it's their first, but they're about to make a very heavy buy in South Carolina, TV buy in South Carolina, which shows what they're aiming at beyond New Hampshire. They want to try to slow the momentum here. With all due respect to Politico, they do a lot of great stuff. A couple people inside the Newt Gingrich campaign talking about an alliance with Santorum doesn't really mean there's going to be one. I don't think there's going to be one because I don't think Santorum wants one, and quite frankly, I don't think Newt Gingrich wants one. Newt Gingrich is not the alliance-making kind of guy. He wants to be in the field to try to slow down Mitt Romney as a matter of tactics and a matter of personal revenge. Romney's not here right now. Interestingly, he went down to South Carolina. He's confident enough about his standing here in New Hampshire that he took a day or two to dip down to South Carolina because that's where he hopes to close out the campaign. Now, I went to a Santorum event last night, a lot of undecideds. They liked what he said, but they don't know necessarily enough about his deep conservative Catholicism. New Hampshire is 60% Catholic, but it's not pre-Vatican II Catholic, Lawrence.
Right. It's not that's going to be a Mass Catholic. To translate
exactly.
That for
exactly. These are tolerant people up here. There's not the fight about gay marriage here that there was out in Iowa, for example. So the more people learn about Santorum's personal side and religious faith, that may give them pause. But they like what he says about the culture of dependency. They like his anti-government rhetoric, even though the union leader regards him as a, quote, big government conservative. I was talking to Joe McQuaid, who was the editor of the Union Leader last night. He said, well, we don't like Santorum either because he's a big government conservative. So the Union Leader is going to attack Santorum as well. You don't feel an overwhelming surge for Santorum here. You don't feel a surge for anybody right now. I think you feel maybe a point-by-point air going out of the Romney 41% lead, but you don't feel an earthquake happening here yet.
Charlie Black, I assume you power brokers in the Romney campaign are sneering at that little $2 million trickle that has rolled into the Santorum campaign finally, and you're just thinking, oh, okay, kid, you got $2 million. Go ahead, spend it, and we'll wave goodbye to you in a few weeks.
Yeah, Senator Santorum got a great boost of momentum out of Iowa, well deserved for what he accomplished there, but he is going to have to raise a lot more than $2 million to compete with the organization, national political organization, and fundraising infrastructure that Governor Romney has methodically put together. Governor Romney is in very strong position in New Hampshire. Sure, that margin will be cut as people focus on the race this weekend, and maybe Senator Santorum's in a position to finish second there. Who knows? But Governor Romney will win New Hampshire, and that will give him significant momentum going into South Carolina and Florida. Give Rick Santorum credit for a great accomplishment in Iowa, but he doesn't have the organization or financial infrastructure underneath his personal campaigning to be competitive down the stretch.
Charlie, that sounds like a corporate presentation as to why you should invest in this stock rather than that stock. Is there any enthusiasm in the Romney campaign, and is there any real governing difference between Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum as presidents?
Well, I think there's a big difference, and I respect Rick Santorum. He's been a great conservative senator and obviously is a great personal campaigner. But the issue before the American people is jobs. Mitt Romney has the right experience and leadership skills to turn the economy around, create jobs, and bring a big spending, big federal government, big regulatory federal government under control. That's what he's done his whole life. Rick Santorum, with all due respect, does not have that business background. And jobs is the #1 issue in New Hampshire. Jobs is the #1 issue in South Carolina. South Carolina is one of the highest unemployment rates in the nation. They care more about jobs than the social issues in South Carolina.
Melissa Harris Perry, I don't see any real difference between Rick Santorum and Mitt Romney as presidents. If they do have differences in their past, but I don't see what the difference is as presidents. Am I missing something in their campaigns?
Well, you know, it's probably because you recognize that the president is not, in fact, an authoritarian dictator who can simply implement whatever policies are in his head. There's a kind of, you know, juvenile element to the presidential presidential campaigns where candidates present themselves as though, these are my beliefs, and because these are my beliefs, this is what I will do in office. But if anything about the past 3 years ought to be a civics lesson to Americans, that in fact there is this other little thing called, the Congress. In fact, when I was listening to Romney speaking on Iowa caucus night about what his plan would be for budgeting, it was striking because it was how a CEO talks about budgeting. You take a look at it, you cut what you don't need. That's not how government budgeting works, and it's not how government budgeting is going to work under President Romney, President Santorum, President Gingrich, or any of them. So there is a little bit of fantasy play that goes on here. And so in that sense, I think you're right. I think there are real differences in policy positions between Santorum and Romney, but as president, I think they're both constrained by the realities of the American presidency.
Howard Fineman, I can't remember a buildup more exciting to a Republican presidential debate than what's coming this weekend. We're going to have one on Meet the Press on Sunday morning. Here's Karl Rove in the Wall Street Journal talking about that, saying the former Massachusetts governor should prepare to be the piñata at Saturday's debate in Manchester, New Hampshire. It won't be pleasant, but he can solidify his lead if he deflects the attacks in a dignified, confident manner and avoids looking irritated or rattled. And Howard, we know that there's this promised attack from Newt Gingrich that's coming, and we're all kind of on the edge of our seats, dying to see these explosions.
Right.
I'm starting to get the feeling that it just can't work out as wonderfully as we're hoping, and that Gingrich will somehow end up muting himself. And how do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, these, that's true, Lawrence. These guys always talk a bigger game than they end up playing when they get on the stage, because they're thinking also, hey, I'm running for president, and there is some residual desire to be dignified in that situation. So, and also it's been way oversold. I mean, it's true that that pro wrestling is one of the most popular things on cable. So we're partly in the role of wrestling promoters here in New Hampshire. But I do agree with Karl. I do agree with Karl on the tone of the thing. A lot of people think that Mitt Romney behind the scenes is kind of thin-skinned, and he showed occasionally on the stage that he can be that way because he likes to have everything a certain way. When it doesn't go his way, he can get very irritated. People in New Hampshire, the people in New Hampshire, Lawrence, they love to mix it up. They love the rough and tumble. They read the Union Leader newspaper, even if they don't like the Union Leader newspaper's politics, because they like the style. They like the combative style. This is a state that's got a House of Representatives with 400 people in it, or 500, I forget, 600 people. Almost everybody's elected to something here. They love to fight. They love to debate. They like to do it with good humor, with intensity, with good humor. If Mitt Romney comes off like a stiff that can't stand the heat in the little kitchen, to use the phrase that Mitt Romney used, then it'll be a bad night for him. But I don't expect Newt Gingrich to spend all his time going after Mitt Romney. I don't.
And a quick final
Howard,
question.
we've had 15 debates. Governor Romney's been attacked in every one of them. He has never showed irritation or anything other than calm. Don't worry, it's not going to be a big event on Saturday or Sunday.
All right, Charlie Black gets the last word on New Hampshire. But Melissa Harris Perry, before you go, I have a very quick question for you. In your new starring role here on the weekends at MSNBC, will you still, I beg you, have the time to host this program occasionally?
Anytime that you ask.
Because without you, I never get a day off.
Of course, anytime you ask.
All right. MSNBC political analyst Howard Fineman, former McCain presidential campaign senior advisor and current Romney campaign advisor Charlie Black, and MSNBC contributor Melissa Harris Perry. Thank you all very much for joining me tonight.